Just over 20 years ago, on November 23, 2004, World of Warcraft was released to a world very different from 2024, and though many imitators would come and go, no MMO released since then has enjoyed the wild success of this once fledgling title. It has been 2 decades since its release, and while online role-playing games have exploded in popularity, the original World of Warcraft still stands as the crown jewel above them all. But why is this? What did the original WoW do so well? And how has Blizzard altered the game for the worse? And most importantly, how has no game captured the popularity of this legacy MMO? Well, the answer to that conundrum doesn't simply lie within the offerings of World of Warcraft, but instead we must look to the evolution of technology and our shared gaming landscape to discover the answer. So join me as we discover why the original WoW was so special and why no other game will ever be able to offer the same astounding experience. For about 2 years, World of Warcraft existed in its classic era. A massive world was presented to the player, and when starting up this game, you were a complete nobody thrust into a complicated ecosystem. While the mechanics of this game may seem complicated to newcomers, in 2004 it was far more approachable than its peers. There have been plenty of MMORPGs prior to WoW, but the straightforward interface, groundbreaking graphics of the time, and enticing world offered an experience no other game could match. Simply put, you could pick up and play this game easier than any other of its kind, yet its initial simplicity was highly deceptive. The feeling of weakness when creating a new character was palpable. You were a very small piece of a huge puzzle, and only through trial and error could you catch glimpses of where your path could lead. Death was frequent, setbacks were common, and many quests were so half-baked that completing them required a keen eye and stout heart. High-level players were few and far between, and oftentimes determining exactly what you needed to do to reach their level of prestige was a challenge in and of itself. This was an era defined by the obtuse. Plenty of quests in the original World of Warcraft were quite vague. Sure, you had your typical quests where you had to kill X amount of Y monsters, but there were an assortment of quests and activities that presented a superb challenge to the average player. With no dedicated wiki or accurate online forums, the player was forced to integrate into the growing community if they had any hope of success. Doing this in the year 2004 was no easy task. This was a time before Reddit, before the iPhone, and before the modern standardized internet as we know it today. Forums like Thoughtbot existed, but oftentimes no concrete answers to questions could be found on them, and frequently they led to more questions than answers. Because of the immaturity of the internet and communications technology, the player was forced to actually interact with other people in the game, and because this game's popularity exploded, the massively multiplayer aspect of the game was unlike any other. By creating a harsh and mysterious world in an era when out-of-game communication was not standardized, World of Warcraft ensured that players would constantly be talking to one another in-game. This led to a process of discovery that is wholly absent from most modern gaming. Because there were no quick answers or in-depth YouTube tutorials, the only way you could succeed in this game was to find others in the game and get to work. Guilds formed, like-minded players banded together, and not only did these groups complete intricate quests while leveling their skills, but they collectively discovered the world together. In those days, it was not uncommon to be in a guild with only a couple of max-level players, and even those players were not all-knowing. Siloed expertise became the norm amongst groups of players. One player may be an expert at knowing how to creatively farm mats by using an ice mage, while another had hard-to-find leatherworking recipes that few other players had, and another still knew how to complete a difficult quest that gave others a lot of trouble. Because technology of the time denied players a central repository with all the information they needed, guilds had an absolute purpose, and they allowed players to create a sort of synergy with one another where each person contributed one piece to solving this immense puzzle. The inability to master all aspects of the game was coupled with expert game design that led to frequent frustrations. Many modern MMOs, including modern World of Warcraft, espouse the philosophy of never angering the player, except when they announce stupid-ass mobile games. But time and time again, that philosophy seems to make for boring games. Modern World of Warcraft has this notion that reaching max level is a tedious and boring process which should be made easy whenever possible. Blizzard has since adopted a strategy of mitigating the leveling process entirely by allowing players to buy massive shortcuts with real real-world money, or bypass leveling entirely in certain cases. But I and many others found that the leveling journey in classic WoW was just as fun, if not more so at times, than the in-game content. Many modern MMOs cast their sights solely on the max-leveled player, the player who has rushed through leveling in order to stand out atop all others, but I think this is a grave error. Leveling in a mysterious and difficult world with a few makeshift allies by your side constitutes some of my greatest memories I have with this game. At max level, your grind is running the same dungeons over and over again to get a chance at getting the best gear in what basically comes down to a virtual slot machine. But that process of leveling up when you know next to nothing about the world is like embarking on a grand adventure in a strange, far-off land. Seeing a max level player in a city and thinking, wow, I want to be like that someday, is a feeling no game emanates quite so well, considering the fact that reaching max level in the original WoW was a huge endeavor that took weeks of playtime. The ethos of the original World of Warcraft was oddly similar to what we see in modern Souls games that garner near universal praise year after year. The player is a nobody, and they are tasked with venturing out in a massive, wild world where death lurks around every corner. In old school WoW, every single zone was a challenge, every single level was hard fought, but through perseverance, patience, and friendship with others, any challenge could be overcome. This sort of game design philosophy that leans into difficulty has surged in recent years, but sadly, Blizzard has yet to embrace it in mainline WoW, relegating such challenges to old content. Blizzard's appeal to the average gamer with little time and patience has only become clearer as time has elapsed. Their most recent expansions are designed to prop up the player as a sort of chosen one who will fix all the problems of the world. With a focus on player choice, common RPG elements, and this notion of being the ultimate hero, modern WoW is a very different beast from its classic counterpart. On top of that, finding groups is as easy as pressing a button, and once you complete a task with a group, there is no need to ever speak with them again. Modern WoW has seemed to lean so far into the RPG aspect of the game, they have forgotten about the MMO part. But why has no other game capitalized on Blizzard's alterations? Typically, when a series abandons its core, another will take its place, yet that hasn't really happened with WoW. There is a sizable market of gamers that would leap at the opportunity to put themselves into a challenging, persistent world that tests them constantly. Looking at the reception of Souls-like games and more challenging experiences makes it clear that hardcore challenges are here to stay. So where is the mysterious, hardcore, next-gen MMO? While there are some MMOs that are difficult, the sad reality is that the days wherein MMO could be a foreboding, mystifying adventure are all gone. The internet of 2024 is chock full of standardized websites and dedicated forums where players can come together outside of the game and make quick conclusions about any world. Games with massive puzzles that require scores of gamers to work together to solve them are solved within hours of a game's release, and finding the absolute truth about even the most minute aspect of a game is as easy as typing a few lines into Google or ChatGPT. Even in WoW, whenever a new expansion releases, there are groups of gamers who zoom through the content in a matter of hours and post their findings to the web instantly. It's simply impossible to build a game with the same world-spanning riddles present in the original WoW. The de facto model for MMOs these days is to make the leveling process easy, the challenges soloable by most players, and the end-game content the only content that offers any modicum of challenge. But what if a game broke the mold? Many have tried with games like Fez or Animal Well bringing back horribly obtuse puzzles, and some MMOs have embraced the model of working with others such as Final Fantasy XIV, but still, a crutch exists for modern gamers that was absent 20 years ago. While I think everyone should be able to enjoy games, sadly, in a quest to make games universally enjoyable, challenge in MMOs has waned significantly. There are no more unknowns in the world of gaming because someone, somewhere, has solved the riddle before you, and you can find their solution within seconds. However, with the rise of indie games, more MMOs than ever before, and a gaming landscape that is bucking norms frequently, I do hold out some hope. Perhaps there will be a developer that finds a way to break the mold and create a harrowing online experience, the sort of experience where you are just a grain of sand on an infinitely large beach, and the only way to understand the world is to group together with other players in the game. Maybe that developer will find a unique way to hide secrets from the player and mitigate their ability to find their answers outside of the game. I can't comprehend how a studio could do this, but then again, 20 years ago, I could never have guessed the insane leaps this industry would make in just 2 decades. Perhaps there is some remote hope for a similar experience, an experience where the world stretches beyond your imagination, and the way forward is veiled in shadow that can only be illuminated by engaging with a massive population of other curious adventurers in-game. We have seen shades of this in other games, but I feel that the time for games with the allure of classic WoW has passed. Our communications technology has only gotten better, and while there are many great things about that, unfortunately, it makes the experience that World of Warcraft brought in 2004 a thing of the past. If you played Classic WoW, I would love to get your opinion in the comment to see if I'm on point in this video. Or maybe you found a new MMO that's reminiscent of Classic WoW, in which case I would love to hear about that too. A like and a subscribe go a very long way to growing my channel, so if you enjoyed this content, I would really appreciate that. And I should have a new video in about a month. Until then, hope you guys have a good one. Thanks. Bye.